Hello, my name is Debbie Boone, and I want to welcome you to my podcast, The Bend, where we explore how successful people navigated the path and emerged in a better place when life threw them an unexpected twist. It's inspired by one of my favorite sayings: the bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the curve. These conversations will hopefully help you and inspire you to embrace your personal bend and to flourish. I hope you enjoy it, and if you need help with your own personal navigation and you're in veterinary medicine, please feel free to reach out to me at Debbie Boone 2 Manage Vets Consulting. Enjoy the bend and be inspired by our wonderful guest. Welcome. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of The Bend. Now, usually, as you know, I have one single guest, but today is a really special episode because I have invited three of my very good friends to come along on this ride, and we're going to tell you the story of how we decided to get together and create an association. Part of that is not knowing any better, but we did it anyway. So I want to introduce myself. I'm Debbie Boone. I'm your host today on The Bend. And my guests here are Dr. Jill Clark, the president of NAAVR, Rhonda Bell, the secretary treasurer, and everything else that we need as far as technology goes, and Judy Rose Lanier, who is our new executive director, which we are very excited to have. So welcome to everyone. We probably have a lot of talk about today, and we talk a lot. So welcome to The Bend. So Jill, I want to get started with you because you really started this ball rolling. So tell us a little bit about how you had the epiphany that receptionists needed an association.
Well, thanks, Debbie. It all started, I was practicing veterinarian, and of course, CSRs saved my bacon on a daily basis. And half my clients came on the days only that their favorite receptionist was there and not really when I was present. So, and then as I moved into a large hospital group many years later, I was able to do a study of about 1,200 what were supposed to be the cream of the crop CSRs. And after listening to thousands of phone calls that they had with client interactions, it was just devastating to me how we pitted a CSR against a pleading client and then against a veterinary team that sometimes were giving nonverbals or even verbals about, well, why didn't you ask more questions? Or I can't take that appointment right then, or you didn't ask me for that person to come in, whatever it may be. And it was really untenable for those folks. And additionally, I, like maybe some other people, had this misnomer in my mind that CSRs in veterinary medicine were just waiting to get to their dentistry opportunity or moving to a human hospital. And sadly, I believed that for a long time. So when I started Ignite, we wanted to focus really on the orphans of education, which were CSRs and some other roles in the practice, and started the Veterinary Receptionist Certificate of Excellence. Being told that nobody will pay for that, nobody will invest in their CSRs because they're so temporary, and if we train them, they'll just leave. 5,500 CSRs later in the program, I have learned that my whole thinking in life prior to that was wrong. We have a group of dedicated, smart, ambitious individuals in that role that would stay in veterinary medicine forever if they just got the education and the support and the acknowledgement that they needed. After looking around, like, there's absolutely no representation for this group of people, not anywhere, not in AVMA, not in any really in organization. They're an also mentioned, if even also mentioned. And so it made sense to start a nonprofit organization to advocate for this role and really give them their own voice. And that came from me making many mistakes, right? But it was an accurate message. These guys needed that support. So who do I call? Debbie Boone. Knowing that you're like 1 degree of separation from everybody in the veterinary industry. And I think that first call was about a year before we actually started.
It was.
It was,
yeah.
And I just said, Debbie, I need help, and I need somebody who knows veterinary medicine and how to get things done. And I think at the time you said, sure, but let's just stay in touch. And a whole year later, we finally got
Yeah.
some the ball rolling, right?
It's true. It's true. I think I look back because we were talking about this not too long ago, and I think the very first email reach out was April of 2021. And we didn't know each other.
Right.
I'd just been tooling around out there in the world. And so I thought, wow, this is really a good idea because I have spent much of my career advocating and training the front desk team and worked the front desk for 19 years, even as I managed hospitals. So, really lived in that role. So when Jill reached out and said, I think we need to start an association, I had just kind of rolled off of being the president of Vet Partners, which was a pretty intense obligation. And I went, oh, you know what? I have time on my hands. And why not? Why not do something like this? So I said, sure, let's do that. But then it was also in the middle of COVID where everybody was drinking water out of the fire hose. We were just trying to figure out how to get through the day with every nuance and change that was happening to the rules and regulations of how we were doing business. So it did take us a while to kind of get settled enough in our schedules to get together. And so we started working on how do you set up a nonprofit? How do you find lawyers? How do you find sponsors? How do you write the regulations? And so I will confess that we did plagiarize stuff. We we went to some associations we had been members of. We looked at public record of how they set up their organizational structure. We went, yeah, we like that. Let's do that. And then Jill
Mhm.
found an attorney and she set up our articles in corporation. Well, of course, Rhonda and I have been working together for quite a while. And I said, gosh, you know what? We need some more help. And Jill went, yeah, we really do need some more help because we were fighting like the membership association website and we, we were
Oh
beating our
yeah.
head against the wall. I went, I know the perfect person. So Rhonda says I voluntold her that she was going to come into this process, but I said, no, you really advocate for CSRs too, and we could really use some more help. And so, Rhonda,
Yeah.
what were you thinking, right?
Well, that was, I mean, honestly, I've wanted to do this for years and years, and that's why you tapped me on the shoulder and because we had talked about this,
Yeah.
but I didn't have the resources. No one person can take on something like this. And so collectively, I think you find your people whenever you have the when your heart is all leaning in the same path, right? And I think that's what happened to us is our hearts were all kind of converging on the same path. And so that's where these conversations went. And so that's how we knew and we found each other. And so Debbie and I talked about this for years and talked about just, man, we got to do more. We've got to do more to advocate. We've got to do more to lend our voices. And we've gotten, we've been in this career long enough that we just we're louder than some of the others now, and so we've got a little bit more experience, so we can just lend our voices and we can lend our strength and our experience. And so that's where, I want to spend time and I want to spend energy. And so whenever she tapped me on the shoulder for this and said, hey, this is what we want to do, it was a no-brainer. So yeah, I joke with her that I was voluntold. And when Debbie Boone asks you to do something, the answer is never no. So you got to do it.
You know
But
what? Can you tell that to my husband? Because let me tell you what, the answer is often no when I come
right.
up with a
It's
project in my
different.
house.
Yeah. It's different.
It's
It's
different.
different in our real lives. I know.
It's different. That's true.
Yeah. I wish my
Yeah.
husband had the same set of, yeah, criteria, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't regret it. There's days where, the tasks in front of us are huge and it's like, oh man, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
But then it happens.
Yeah.
We have these sponsors who jump up and just support us, and we have these amazing I mean, look at the size of this organization that just every day we get these emails that people are joining, just boom, boom, boom. I
Yeah.
always get these alert. I mean, it's just incredible. And then now we've got Judy Rose, this amazing executive director
Yeah.
that's joined our ranks.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
So
fantastic.
So Judy Rose and I go back a long, long way. In fact, I think I met her first. She was working for the Texas Veterinary Medical Association, and Deb Stone had
Mhm.
a conference that she used to do in Austin, and I came out and was one of the speakers there and met Judy Rose for the first time, and we even sang a little karaoke, I think, that night after a couple of glasses of wine. But she then moved and went to work with AHA, and there we worked together a lot because she was, I guess your title was the director of education, or yeah, not exactly that, but she put together all the webinars, and I had done several speaking engagements for AHA. In fact, I think would speak with him almost every other year. And every time I did, there was a hurricane at my house. This was like inevitably this happened. We always had a hurricane. But so I got the opportunity to work with Judy Rose. And so when we started NAAVR, she volunteered and said, "How can I help?" And I went, "Oh, yeah, we need help. We're glad to have you help." And so she started out as a volunteer. And then as it got bigger, and we now have close to 800 members in just this last, I guess, year and a half. And it's growing exponentially. We, the three of us who all own our own businesses, realized that we needed a hub of all information and somebody to keep us organized and on track. So thank God Judy Rose said, "Yeah, I'll take that job." And she has been a godsend to us. So Judy
Aw,
Rose,
thank you.
sort of, I mean, other than being voluntold by Debbie Boone, again, how did you get involved here? Sorry, y'all.
Well,
Starting to feel pushy.
like Rhonda says, if Debbie Boone asks you to do something, you do. No, yeah, I think this was like a conversation you and I had, and it was secret. I say quotes, and I was super excited to hear about this. One, Ethel Pollock, who started the Veterinary Receptionist Week, Melissa Tompkins introduced me to her a few years ago, like the first year this was happening. And I worked with one of my contacts, who actually was part of developing, content and for our newsletter and things like that. And we just did a quick, advertisement in our newsletter about Veterinary Receptionist Week. And I was like, man, how can I be involved in this? This is a group that I feel like needed recognition. They work so hard. And for us as, CVPMs, we've all worked that receptionist
Hmm.
front desk. And it is such a hard job. And it's a very special skill set that
Mhm.
these talented people have. And so when there was an opportunity to help, grow and recognize this, part of our veterinary community, I jumped at the chance and I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, we're all
Yeah,
super excited to have you, right?
Oh, thank
that's
you.
unanimous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rhonda said something I think is worth pointing out is that, we are all have all worked as CSRs at one point in our lives.
Hmm.
But we're not currently, but we are at a point in our careers to where we're courageous and just don't care.
Right.
Honestly, if someone says you guys shouldn't be doing that or CSRs can't do this or not, like
I know.
we're gonna like whip out the swords and try to clear the way. And I think that's important for people to know that our intention for NAVR is for it to be CSR run and
Mhm.
managed and all the things that need to happen, but we felt like we needed to in our roles kind of be the super advocates
Mhm.
and get the bylaws done, all the junk jobs that come with
Hmm.
but then fight the good fight and then hand this over and bring people
Yeah,
along with us. It's a lot of work, but it's worthy to hand. We want to make sure we have something worthy to hand over, right?
exactly.
And
Exactly.
so I'm
Yeah.
excited for that day to come. I know everybody else is too.
Yeah, we are. And for that, to that point, it's really important that the CSRs out there get involved. And I think sometimes we just send out a survey that is being done by Dr. Lori Kogan at the University of Colorado about the abuse that the front desk takes. And I talked to Lori the other day and I said, are you getting some responses? And she said, I've had a few, but I've not had a great deal. And I feel like that this is a group that has not been empowered enough to want to or to know that their voice matters. So I
Mhm.
feel like it's important for us to keep advocating for them and say, yeah, you need to speak up. You need to step up. You need to understand that this is a role that took me from a part-time job to, a consultancy in this space and being fairly influential and certainly making a good living at it. And you can do this. You absolutely can do that. And there are so many smart people who do this job, emotionally intelligent people who do this job. And if you look at some of the greatest challenges in veterinary medicine today, it is a dearth of great leadership. And if you think of people who are incredibly emotionally intelligent and put them into leadership positions, it's going to be, a great asset to this profession is to put them and have them elevated. But you got to keep them, right? You got to keep them there. And I think to, Jill's point that you kind of thought that it was a temporary job going someplace else. But when I was running hospitals, my CSRs were there for 20 and 30 years. And when I say that to managers, they're just stunned. Like, how long did they stay and why did they stay? And it's because I was just a bulldog about training them. And they were so confident and so solid in their job because nobody wants to go to work feeling like they're bad at it. And if we can train these people, they take such a burden off of the medical team, and they are, advocates for the patients, they're advocates for the clients, they build the relationships with people. And that is not to be discounted at all. And they need to be paid appropriately for that work too. They are, I made a post the other day about them and said they are first gear in the motor of your Ferrari. And if you're ever going to get to fifth, you better start with making sure that first knows how to do their job.
It's important to us as we're trying to really differentiate the difference between leadership and being a supervisor. CSRs are often con confused with I can't be a leader because I'm not a supervisor. I'm just a CSR. And if I could remove the word just, I would do that
Mm.
because it's such a
Get rid of the
disqualifier.
dust.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate it
Yeah.
because anybody can be a leader. You could be the lowliest ever and still be a leader because it's a mindset. It is not a role, it's not a position. There's no title assigned. So leadership is the role you take within your mind. So they're
Yeah.
100% within training, within the work that you do, the pride that you take, the confidence. And even if your boss, your owner doesn't offer the training, seeking it out yourself,
Mhm.
enhancing your own education. It's not up to whether or not your manager allows it, whether or not your practice owner allows it. You can seek it out. There's programs like Jill's. Go do it. There are ways. And that's where I'm proud of our organization because we are helping carve those paths. And that's where, you guys have seen me get really grouchy and really advocate because I 100% get mama bear on stuff because I want to carve a path. I absolutely want to make sure that if someone needs something, if a CSR or veterinary receptionist needs something, wants something, or if they're running into roadblocks on stuff, that's what we're here for. We're here to open up that space because CVPMs, we had that. We had an organization that did that. AVMA does that for doctors. The technicians have that. CSRs aren't used to being included in these conversations. They're not used to having people do studies about them. They're not used to having surveys go out about them. So they're like, why am I feeling, I don't know. So yeah, I understand the skepticism, but I do encourage them to fill them out because this is how those conversations happen. This is how you get included more. This is how those seats start being pulled out at those tables where we want to have those conversations even more so. Get involved in our organization, get involved in others, start talking, start asking questions, start just, we have our first committee being formed in NAAVR and it is CSR led. So that is 100% exciting. We have our first webinar coming up tomorrow. So, that's fantastic. We have so many leaders and so many amazing things, and they're not supervisors.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to be.
So let's talk a little bit about our vision for the future because we definitely have a focus on where we want this to go. And Jill mentioned it earlier that we want this to be reception led, or front desk team members leading this Oh my gosh, sorry, spam call. So, one of the things that when we started, I think we were a little surprised that one of our goals was to have a CSR track at some major conferences. And we thought, oh, this might take, I can remember talking to Adam Chrisman going, I think it'll, 2, 3 years down the road, maybe we could get some CSR tracks on the docket at Fetch or VMX. And he went, well, why don't we just do it now? And I went, what? And so in what, 2 or 3 months period of time, we were putting
Kansas City,
together
here we
content and
go.
we were like, yeah, let's go do it. And so there we were in Kansas City with our very first CSR track. So some of our goals were met quickly, and then others of our goals were a little more out of reach, I guess, so to speak, at first. But thinking about what Ron and I were talking about, and Judy Rose is a CVPM too, is that we had a career path that was set for us. Thank you to Mark Opperman, Ralph Duke, the original OGs of VHMA, who said, okay, we're going to have this certification program, and this is somewhere then you can aspire to reach, and this is going to have power in this profession because people will recognize how difficult it is to attain CVPM, and then the managers, there's proof of quality of knowledge there. So when we started NAAVR, this was one of our big goals. Is like we want to have a certification program so that the CSRs can aspire to getting this. Now, it is complicated. I've had some conversations with some of the leadership of the HMA just about how difficult this is to set this up. So it's certainly not going to happen overnight, but it is a goal for us to have this very challenging professional status for CSR set up. So, Jill, you are kind of in this education space. Tell us a little bit about, how you foresee getting this put together.
Well, the interesting thing is, I mean, we talk about some wins. I mean, just getting the education more pervasive in the industry is a first step to a certification, quite honestly, right? There's no CE or anything that they can take to continually learn, then the certification isn't going to be as effective.
Right.
And so I think seeing that all the many conferences, state and national, are now offering CSR tracks. And that's a beautiful thing because it didn't exist before, right? But really organizing what we want this job to be able to do. And we talk a lot internally about this idea of a super CSR, like, beyond answering phones and greeting clients and filling prescriptions, but into really being client experience gurus, being financial experts, really guiding the entire client journey and having a major role in marketing. They're just perfectly suited for something much bigger than where they are right now. I digress for a moment, but I think you told me a story once, Debbie, that'll never leave me, about CSR telling you that they'd never been told they were important before until you interacted with them. And then at that same conference in Kansas City, I had a similar experience that brought me to tears and the person to tears. In our pathway has to be for us to still continue to work to get that acknowledgement and to let people know they're important, because we can create this wonderful thing, but we still have to have people that are willing to ride the wave up and know that they are important. So that I digress, but I think that's still something that needs day-to-day attention from NAAVR is that piece. On the education front, I think it's a matter of us organizing what those skills are, what those competencies are, how we test to just find out what people's gaps are, and then how we deliver that content, and then also have a independent testing organization. Perhaps we've been looking at that, so that when someone does go to test, it's within a national group, proctored, unbiased, that sort of thing, so that designation means something. Very much following what CVPM did, again, with continuing education credits afterwards. But it's a process, I think, right now, right, Debbie? We're trying to determine what that is, and honestly, quite every day, I'm surprised at what CSRs are willing and asked to do. How many times have you heard from practice? Oh, my CSRs would never complete that program, or they would never do this. Well, they will, and they want to.
Mhm.
But we need to kind of find what those outer limits are of what that role can bring.
Yeah. I think that the mistake is, and a lot of times, well, I mean, you're a veterinarian, so this is a role that you made an assumption about that this was, it's a weight at the back. And I think the other part too is, and I'll say we've got three managers here, is a mistake that managers make is hiring people to work the front desk who only want to move into the treatment room. They need
Right.
to hire people who want to be up there. Somebody said the bartenders and the waitresses and
Mhm.
those kind of retail people who love working with people who don't necessarily want to go and start to, you know, work in surgery or learn dentistry. They want to stay where they are. And when you hire people who really want to be a customer service person, then you're going to get people who want to get elevated in that job and stay there so that they do have a career path, because it's always been a challenge in veterinary medicine there's only limited space to move up, and if you're not going to go in to be the practice manager, then you're just kind of stuck. So how can we elevate this position? And the point that you made, they can be the financial guru in their practice. They can understand how insurance works and help guide clients for insurance stuff. They could be the marketing person. Rhonda, I mean, how many CSRs do you work with in your marketing
Mhm.
company that are doing all the Facebook and social media posts for their hospital and
Yep.
getting absolutely no credit or extra pay for doing it? That's
Yeah,
the
just
other
gets
part of
dumped on
it too.
them.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we
One
have
thing,
we have opportunity within that role to kind of make little niches of expertise in that. And then we want the feedback from the CSRs, like you tell us, because I think one of the most impactful things that we have done to me was that panel group that we did at our very first fetch, and we brought in, I don't know what 100 CSRs, and we said,
right.
what do you want from this association? Tell us. And they just started and they gave us so many great ideas. And one of the things that really stuck with me was they wanted to learn how to best serve people of different cultures. And I thought this
Hmm.
is so brilliant because it's such a diverse universe of pet owners out there. And the fact that they want to learn how to, maybe speak a foreign language or understand sign language so we can talk to people who can't hear us. And oh, so many really great ideas that they came and brought to the table. So we have our marching orders. We have a great long list of stuff to work with.
And those,
Um, yeah,
oh, sorry, Debbie, I was just going to say, I think client or practices are greatly underestimating the revenue generating potential of the front desk.
100%.
You know,
Hmm.
so you're saying, okay, they're just almost like it's almost like they just have overlooked something that would help them so very much, but
100%.
they can't see the forest for the
Right.
trees. And I had zero clients that came to me that didn't come through the front desk, right?
Right.
Zero
Right.
clients came to me that
And
didn't come
leave the
through the
same way.
Yeah.
So they
and
come in
And
and they
they,
go the
yeah.
same way.
Yeah.
and
And
so
it's the
what?
feeling that they carry home with them. It's
Yep.
you might could adjust their client journey as they come in through the door through the doctor and the medical team. But the feeling that they get when they walk out that door, if it's positive or negative, it carries with them out into the world as to whether they're going to be raving fans or, uh, crunch you on social media the minute that they get an opportunity to get to a keyboard.
And
Um,
since everybody else
yeah,
in the practice seems to be allergic to the word sales,
yeah,
I think that there would be an interesting piece of the CSR that not only retail sales, but really being that expert in that piece, because
hmm,
veterinarians are never going to do that.
right,
So,
yeah,
and practice managers have so much on their plate as well. But I think part of our goal, likely will be to make sure that these folks are understood as revenue generators and maybe even have some of the same benefits via rev share, whatever it may
yeah,
be down the road, for those actions that would be brand new, unfortunately, to a lot of practices.
I
100%.
already lecture on some of that. I propose some of that and some of it, and just, I throw it out there. And some of the thought is, consider this, what if they were business partners and revenue partners, and if you had them in charge of this area, or what if you gave them a proposal or had them come back and say, increase this particular area, pitch these 3 ideas to me, and you help them develop something. Just what if I gave you these ideas and you went back and thought about these things? And it was just like, what? These people can think? I should generate what? And it's just like, yeah, it's not all on your shoulders. You actually have entire teams of people, and you've got this group of people who actually speak to the client longer than anyone else. And not only that, these clients are sitting up front staring at the CSRs probably longer than anyone else because they're waiting on you because you're running late. So you have opportunities. So utilize it. Think about that. And, I'm reminded, Debbie, of that panel. And one of the other things that stood out to me, I remember the culture statement, but the other one is the woman who had been in the industry, I think 20 or 30 years. And she said that she wanted to be validated and professionalized. Remember, she wanted to be normalized and professionalized for being in the industry, and it being okay to be a CSR and to be a professional CSR, not looked down on because she just stayed there for that long. But
Right.
it's okay I want to do this and I want to be a professional CSR. And that just impacted me because, for me, I could just be a manager, I could just be anything and it's just settle. And she didn't want to be looked at like she had just settled into that role for however long she had done that. She wants to be a professional. She wants credentials. She wants to have something. And I work with another CSR who she's out trying to collect as many letters as she can get. Like she wants the next thing. What else can we teach? What else can she learn? So there's a whole nother sect within our veterinary world that wants those opportunities, and we have created them in the veterinary space for doctors. We have specialties. We have all of these things. Even technicians have specialties. We don't have specialties in the management space, which I think we should. And now we have the opportunity, and it's on our shoulders because we've created this association, and now we have this. And I feel that weight, and it's on our shoulders. And I think we have the responsibility, and I think we need to give that to them. So I take that very seriously.
That's
They've
the
asked
thing
it.
sorry.
No.
That's the thing that I am really excited about is the momentum that we are building here in NAAVR. We are bringing more visibility and more professional development and more support to the veterinary receptionist team. And I feel like there's just such an opportunity here to shape the future of this role. And I love being a part of creating these resources and programs that are not only going to help people grow, but we are going to help them feel valued. And this is such an important word. We're going to help them feel valued. And, that's going to make them want to stay in the profession long term. So the fact that, these 3 amazing women that I'm chatting with you here, they set the groundwork for this, and I get to help move it forward. So I'm really, really excited about that part.
Well, and you're doing a great job, like with your webinar work. Just the excitement that we have had with some of the meetings we've had with some of our sponsors. I can't tell you, when they see that we've got the webinars coming, just the little like, ooh, we've got webinars. So, I mean, the sponsors that I think we're going to be working with in the next year coming up, that's pretty exciting. I think the webinar program this year is going to be pretty exciting. Some of the topics coming, some of the speakers, that was one of those things that usually it's pulling teeth, Debbie, as you know, getting webinars lined up, getting all of that. I think we only have 2 more slots for the whole year open. It went like that. We booked them super quick, and we haven't really even publicized it. It was just, we mentioned it. It was just in passing, and people just, I'm doing it. So, and we've got a bunch of sponsorships, webinars where people are kind of talking to us too. So yeah, if anyone wants to sponsor a webinar, you better hurry up because they're going fast.
Also,
Exactly right.
big news for us today, a big goal of ours was our very first newsletter went out this morning.
Yeah.
As a part of Veterinary Receptionist Week, and we offered it as a gift to our members, and the feedback we've already gotten, like immediately there were 2 comments that were like, I love this, oh my gosh, yay. So that's
Yeah.
so exciting. So everybody is just like ready to absorb like all of the information that we can give them. And it's really exciting times for us. I'm glad to
It
be a
is.
part of this at the very
You know,
beginning.
it just made me think about when Rhonda was talking about this and Jill was talking about the revenue share stuff is there's this past week there was a really big upheaval, and I don't know when this will post, but you know, Chewy bought Modern Animal.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And the world fell apart because people are like, oh my gosh, how can we ever compete with this? But we are teaching you how to compete
Mhm.
by
Yeah.
elevating your CSRs and elevating your client journey. When one of the things that Chewy has always done is create a great client service experience. Now, as in the veterinary hospital on the other side of the coin, it was not a great experience for people who worked in the veterinary hospital to have to deal with Chewy and their very aggressive team. But for the clients on the other side of the phone, they loved it that they were getting flowers when their pet died, or if you know they didn't need the food, or if it was wrong, they just said donate it. So all those were very positive things. But the CSRs in my practices were the ones who began and ended that great client journey, and they were so connected to our clients that I had a veterinarian who owned a hospital down the street later on tell me, you know, we couldn't blast people away from your hospital, even though we were less expensive and we were right down the road. And now I figured out it really didn't have all that much to do with the medicine. It had to do with the client service that people were
Of
given
course.
there. Now, that's exactly right. So people will stay where they are appreciated and where they feel welcome and where they feel that they are in collaboration with your team and that they are not just a dollar sign that walked in the door. And your CSRs are the ones that make that happen. And so investing in them is
Mhm.
just a really smart business move. And you got three CVPMs and a very successful business owner sitting right here on this webinar. I mean, in this on these screens and saying, this is good for business. You know, it is good for your CSRs. It reduces turnover, but it is a smart business move to support your CSRs and get them educated and trained. And you know, this is one of our big goals. And I'm like Judy Rose said, I'm so excited about the webinars that are coming out. These are some of them are free to the world. Now you won't get the recordings unless you're a member, and it only costs $25 to join. So why not? We intentionally made the membership cost very
That's
low.
25 for a year, Debbie.
That's
25
25
for
for a
a
year. That's right. Because
year.
people will say for a month. I'm like, no, it's for the
No,
whole year.
a
It's for the whole
year.
year. Because we wanted to keep it available to people whose boss may not give them any kind of continuing education money. And just a word out there to you employers, you should be doing this if you want to elevate your team, if you want to keep your team. People need to learn, and
Mhm.
investing in them is one of the smartest moves that you can make. And wanting in retention, people want to be good at their jobs and they want to feel confident in their
It's a
job.
great employee benefit. We've set it up in such a way where you can send a template straight to Jill and she can get you set up really quick. Um,
We can do bulk
Send it over.
enrollments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
send it over to us. We can get you set up and call it an employee benefit and you're set up super quick.
And for
Absolutely.
those that don't know, we have a really active community now. We started that last year. Is that right? Was it
Yeah.
last
Mhm.
year?
Hmm.
So we made a switch because we really wanted to have that value and that safe space, that safe community. So we have, you know, as people have mentioned, 800-ish people and growing all the time in a community, but they're also crowdsourcing knowledge. So basically, when you enroll your CSRs, they're learning from every other CSR that's in there with forms, documents, templates, videos, ideas, whatever it may be. And it's
Blogs, all kinds of stuff.
we've kept it very intentional. So there's absolutely no griping or it's no one's venting their dirty laundry or anything on
No
here.
client bashing. That
It's
is one
That
hard
is
and fast.
that is not allowed. Yeah.
but the intentionality of what we've done has caused it to be just like an accelerator in knowledge because these guys are all getting together and learning the best of what each of them has to bring. So I wanted to point that out. And we have an app. So it's easy to get on and interact with the app for us this year. So that was a big jump for us last year, is to make sure that it was accessible and that it was important.
Something really unique I have noticed about our community is from other communities is that they're so supportive of each other. You know, not only are they going in there and asking questions like, what are you doing for this? What are you doing for that? But they're also, you know, making posts like, I'm having a really hard time today. This happened to me with this client and I just need some support. And the comments that you get from people are just amazing, like offering not only just resources, but just like virtual hugs and things like that. And like, here's how I handle that situation type thing. And it's really pretty amazing to see that.
But really,
Yeah.
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 How
I
do we
think
think?
I
Oh,
love the crowdsourcing of the information, and I look at these things and go, oh, that is so good. And people are just sharing really great tools that they have and training lists and
Oh,
um,
I've learned a ton. I mean,
oh yeah,
things that even 20 years in, and I'm
yeah.
looking, I'm going, oh, where was that? I
Yeah,
wish I
I
would
know.
have had that.
This is really so
This
good.
is so
And it's
good.
here as this free resource and
Yeah.
somebody's just sharing these great documents. And to
Yeah.
your point, we are very protective of the communities. We have two.
Yes.
And the first one is just for CSR. So you don't get into that community without being actively working on the front desk. We
Mhm.
don't allow managers in it. We're not allowing like the sales reps or people that are just, consultants in there because we want that a protected community where they can have honest conversations with each other and ask questions. I know one day I noticed somebody asked about a job choice. They had two opportunities to choose this job, or this job, and they discussed it with their community, and the community helped them decide which job to take, which I thought was just brilliant. So there's that. And then there's the management community and the supporter community where they are also getting resources to help train their teams and asking questions of each other and talking about all kinds of things that are helpful for their business. And so I feel like keeping those communities separate and safe is
Mm,
going to be one of our major goals there. We want to make sure that the CSRs know that this is for them. In fact, we actually had a corporate group who wanted to be involved and kind of stalk their CSRs, and we said no. Yeah, I'm
No,
sorry,
turn them down.
we won't let you do that. And so they did not join their entire group of CSRs, and but that's not the way it's going to be. We are.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's like Jill said, there's a freedom in having us be the age that we are. And then we are not
What is it
easily
that we do not
swayed.
care club?
That's
Perimenopause.
right.
That's what I
That's
call it.
right. So like we do not care. We no longer care. So we're going to do it right, and this is the way we've determined to do it. So I think that is there
Well,
is
they're
a
just
freedom in
they need to
that.
be there needs to be a safe place, and I think that's one of the things that I remember our earliest conversation when we were still trying to form the legal documents and figure all that stuff out, and our early plagiarizing days. That safe place was one of the first things we said is like no matter what, we've got to create a place where they can share, and it's got to be sharing and feel safe and safe from managers and safe from us.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons once we've got this bill, we want to hand it to them and hand a leadership structure to them that they feel safe leading, they feel safe working in, but they also know that if they need to come back and ask questions, we're here and we can help because we've served in communities, we've served in committees, we've served in all of these roles throughout our whole careers. So we can be these, board resources for them. But we're not overseeing them. We're not their boss because this
no.
organization needs to be theirs. We're just doing like Jill said, we're doing the dirt work to try to get it built because we can and we've got the experience to do it and we're blessed to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so it's, a ton of work and a ton of energy and money and all of that other stuff. And we're going to get it done for them. But yeah, we want, if anything, we need more sponsors and we need more members to step in and help us because generating that newsletter, I mean, there's four of us working on the website, writing the blogs. It's four of us doing this work. So we need more members to come in and take the reins, take it away from us. I dare you. Like,
Yeah.
let's come in come in and start working with us.
Yeah.
We really want people to join us and help us and come in and tell us what you want and help fuel whatever this is going to be and whatever the next iteration of this is. And we're ready.
Yeah.
Let's have the CSRs do this.
I think we do have to say thank you very much for some of our original sponsors, because
Yes.
we
Absolutely.
started out just with an idea and
Yeah.
people really supported us. The team at Care Credit has been amazing to
They
us.
are incredible.
Yeah, we had Fear Free says, well, we don't have any money, but we can do something. And we've said, well, we'll help you at that very first conference. We'll do something. And so everybody has been willing to do, as much as they could. And then now that I think we're kind of settling into our own, it's much easier for us to explain to sponsors. And I think the other misconception is with a lot of particularly pharma companies is that they need to get in front of the medical team. But what the mistake that they make is how highly influential the front desk is in medical acceptance. Because I can tell you, I've talked to hundreds of distribution reps who sit there in the lobby of a veterinary hospital and listen to clients come up to the front desk and question the CSR as to whether they need to buy the special shampoo that's sitting on the shelf, and have that CSR go, I think you can buy it cheaper online, or I think you can
Yep.
buy it at Tractor Supply, as opposed to the CSR who is well trained and says there is very important reason that we sell this particular type of shampoo.
Right.
And yes, you absolutely do need to buy it. And then they go, okay, because the relationship has been built. So if manufacturers are under the illusion that they are should not sponsor this group because they don't have the power to recommend. I can tell you my CSRs sold more heartworm preventative, flea preventative shampoos and food than
Food,
any
yeah.
of my medical team.
Yeah. Well, I
Mhm.
mean, I remember when we first when the hint was out that the three of us were up to something and Care Credit got wind of it. And we had a chat with them. They said, we don't even care what it is. We know what y'all are doing. We know who you are. We're in. And that was so meaningful and so impactful when we met with them and we told them this is what we're doing. They were like, absolutely. And they haven't had a bunch of strings. They haven't asked a bunch of heavy lift. I mean, they just absolutely supported the CSR, supported our work, supported our mission, and we're in 100% without even the pressure, without even the ick that goes with, some sponsors throughout my career, there's been ick, and it's just been kind of a gross relationship. And it just has never been that way with Care Credit. It has absolutely just been a complete blessing the whole way through, and it's just a no-brainer, and no heaviness attached, and that has been incredible. And they just absolutely support our work and the people that we are supporting, and that's been amazing.
Yep.
And we can kind of say the same thing about DVM 360 and Fetch.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yep.
It's Adam Chrisman was the first person that said yes to us, and not only just yes, but hell yes. Like, there was other conferences that we've kind of made some mention with, and it was a little unknown whether that would be successful, but he was like, let's try it. And now we'll be back in December this year. We're going to be in Long Beach and another CSR track. So, and I just think I don't know about you guys, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, but it just feels like a CSR movement is happening.
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Feel it in my bones. And people go, how do you know that? Well, I don't really know that, but I know that I feel that.
I do, Jill, because look, now there's
do.
businesses. There's businesses that focus on training CSRs where that wasn't the case before.
That's true. And hard to believe that 2026 is the year that CSRs got included into the Hero Awards, the DVM
Yes.
360 Hero Awards. And from what I hear, the CSRs are like leading the charge with many, many, many more applications than some of the other roles in practice. So, I mean, little things are starting to be big things.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel that's
Yeah.
you're
I
seeing
mean,
that?
CSR made a magazine cover.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
noticed like on LinkedIn this year, like Veterinary Receptionist Week is being advertised by everybody.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
every day there's a new company that has a post like we're celebrating
Yeah.
receptionists
They're
today.
not just being lumped in with the,
Yeah.
the team
Mhm.
appreciation. They're actually seeing it. And I mean, if it wasn't for Ethel, who actually established
Yeah.
that week 1,000 years ago, we got to tag in on that we didn't do that. That was her. And I remember having that conversation with her and her being so grateful for what we're doing with
Yeah.
NAAVR and I want to make sure she gets the honor for having established that week
Yeah.
and seeing the CSRs for who they are. Um, but yeah, I mean, yes, the tides are turning, Jill, and I think because of what we're doing, but because so many other people, like the match has been lit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we're definitely going to keep it going and keep stoking that fire.
Yeah. 100%. a
Yeah,
hundred
it's
percent.
fun.
Yes. Well, team, it's been great chatting, and I hope that the audience enjoyed this conversation about starting an organization and seeing the passion behind it, and then that they're taking up the banner and they go into their practices and they outreach to the CSRs and they celebrate receptionists, not just during receptionist week, but every single day, because this is a group of people that absolutely has so much impact on your practice. They tee the ball up, so you can hit the long yardage. I mean, so it is protect them, take care of them, train them, coach them, support them, and elevate them as you go through your day. And so I'm going to thank everybody for coming. For Jill, who had the original idea, for reaching out to me, for Rhonda, who
That's
I voluntold and accepted, and Judy Rose the same thing. And we are looking forward to really involving CSRs in this community. And we're always here in the background to support. But as we've said, this is going to be your association. We want you to take the ball and run with it. And so thank you to everyone who's been involved, everyone who has helped, all the sponsors who we have reached out to, who have graciously supported us, and all of you who listen to The Bend. This is Debbie Boone, your host, and I thank you. And please share this episode with anyone who wants to support their CSRs, and have a great CSR week this week in veterinary medicine. Thank you all.